Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Sports Shorts Daily presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Krysan on this Hump Day edition. TK joining us, as you can see, over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge. I am at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Go to lasportshall.com to find out everything about the 2026 Hall of Fame induction weekend. Get your tickets, tables now. Talked to John Brady yesterday. People are already from his camp buying up tickets and tables for that, as it always sells out. And you can join the team, which is this polo I've got on here. You can become a team member. Click on that, find out all about it. And of course, we're presented by LeBear's Casino. Going to be a lot of fun over there this weekend. Before, after LSU home games, or especially when they're on the road, the ESPN Bet Sportsbook is the place to be. All right, TK. Speaking of LSU, they're taking on the Southeastern Lions. You can't really, it's hard to find a line to, because they're, a division down from LSU. And so not every sports book will have a betting line on a game like that. But the couple that you can find has LSU only about a 24-point favorite. That line seems strange. Normally, that line would be a 40-point favorite. I think some of that has to do with the fact that LSU's offense has not been very good through the first three games. It hasn't scored a bunch of points. And two, nobody thinks or expects Garrett Nussmeier to play, and if he does, to play much.
Yeah, I think if he plays, it'll be limited. A torso injury, as described by Coach Kelly, that could be a lot of things, and he's not going to get more specific, but they say it has affected him over the first couple of weeks. And Kelly kind of said like, well, he's not going to heal up till we have the bye week. Well, what does that mean? You bye weeks, you got two more games to play before the open date. So, you know, do you go with Michael Van Buren against Southeastern? Do you put Nussmeier out there and say, hey, Garrett, how's it feel? Do you want to get out? Can you go another series? I don't know. That remains to be seen. And we're not going to know until Saturday night, I guess, as to what happens. But, torso injury, I don't know. It's hard to figure out what might exactly be going on. And Kelly, like all coaches, very, secretive and close to the vest with injury situations. But it makes me think, Ronnie, should you sit the guy out? I mean, this guy's got a big future with big money in it. Kind of like in spring of 23 when they didn't let Paul Skeens bat at LSU, even though in the fall he was one of the best hitters on the team and hit bombs and all of that. And he had hit at Air Force when he was a catcher. They said, well, this guy's going to be a high pick, a lot of money. What if he gets beamed in the hands or the fingers, and there goes the pitching? So they did that. So I don't know if you got a similar analogy. You should be able to beat Southeastern without Nussmeier on Saturday night. And let him heal up because you need him the following week, which Ole Miss game, which is a 2:30 kick in Oxford. That's my thoughts, but they don't care what I think. But that's my thoughts.
Obviously we don't know the extent of the injury. I would say this, in my opinion, that if Nussmeier has a chance to be healed completely, or let's just say he's 50% healthy, and if you don't play him this week and next, you baby him at practice and things like that, he's got a chance to be 80-90% well against Ole Miss, then to me it's a no-brainer. He's the backup quarterback, he's the emergency quarterback against Southeastern. Unless things get weird, he doesn't go in the game. But if he's 50% healthy and he's he's only going to get 60-70% healthy against Ole Miss, then you just minimize them. We just don't know the injury enough, and they don't give you enough information. They're not obligated to where we can make an educated decision. But I am of the belief, Tommy, that if there's a chance for him to make a difference, and for whatever his injury is keeping him from being the best he can possibly be, or that's part of why they're not as good offensively, and sitting him for 2 weeks prior to the Ole Miss game, then do that. You're not going to need Garrett Nussmeier to beat a Southeastern. You may need, if he's in there and he's healthy, the spread will be bigger and it might look prettier. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember or care if you go beat Ole Miss, what you did against Southeastern. So, survive in advance against Southeastern. people will be a little murmur if you only win by 14 or 21, but get through it. And then go worry about taking on Ole Miss on the road at 2:30, by the way, in Oxford with Garrett Nussmeier quarterback, because you're going to need him as healthy as he can be if you want to win that game.
Well, it's one of those things, you got to pay attention to Southeastern. You got to go out there and do what you need to do to win the game. But there's also a big picture. I mean, you got, you're 3-0. You got a big game with Ole Miss on the road. By the way, big Ole Miss Tulane game this Saturday. The Tiger fans, you check out Ole Miss's quarterback Simmons is going to be back. But I mean, it's kind of like managing a baseball game. You got to in the first inning, you got to manage the third and fourth inning. The third inning, you got to manage the sixth. Well, in football, you got to manage the game against Southeastern, and you can't not pay attention to it. But you also got to think about the long term there. And the other thing is, if you put Van Buren in against Southeastern, he gets some snaps. He's if he makes a mistake, he tries to overcome it, or the team overcomes it, and then he's better served to help you later in the year when you might need him one day. Who knows? So again, it's up to Brian Kelly and the staff, but the fans will be all over it. We'll see. It's only Wednesday, and maybe we get more information by the end of the week.
11.5 point favorite is Ole Miss at home against Tulane this weekend. 2:30 kickoff. The line was 12.5, going down to 11.5. So some folks liking Tulane in that one. And yeah, that's going to be a fun game to watch because obviously there's no sweat between LSU and Southeastern to a certain degree unless you bet in the line. And so who's going to win that game, but you don't know necessarily who's going to win. This is a giant game for Tulane, who wants to talk about getting in the playoffs, and a win like this paves the road for that. You go on the road and you beat Ole Miss, you're going to be favored the rest of the games you play the rest of the season, and if you go take care of business undefeated, you will be in the playoffs. So so it'll be fun to watch. Plus, we'll get a chance to see, what Ole Miss is, kind of made of, a little scouting report, if you will. All right, so the Garrett Nussmeier story obviously is the one to watch. You will not hear LSU probably say he's not playing this weekend, because if anything, they don't want to keep fans from coming to the stadium. B, they don't want to give Southeastern an opportunity to we're gonna prepare for Van Buren and da 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 da. At this point, they want to have them prepare for both. The New Orleans Saints this weekend on the road, TK.
Yeah, they're going to go out west, go play the Seahawks, who are 1-1, lost a close one, and then beat the Steelers. Seahawks are 7.5 point favorite, over and under 41.5. Now that's a 3 o'clock kick. One of the few Saints games that's not a noon kick this year. It'll be on CBS, and Seahawks 7.5 point favorite. We know the story about the Saints. We know the 0-2 story. And we'll just have to see if, you would think, Skip Bertman would say that the football gods are going to let the Saints win a game sooner or later. Is it against Seattle this week? I don't know. You got some injuries on the Saints team, and it's just there's not a lot of juice for the Saints right now. Now, if they could go beat Seattle, it may give the fans a little, reason to have some giddy up, but then they got to go on the road against the Giants. So a couple of games on the road, maybe find out what this team's all about.
Jim Mora, the former coach, of course, still does a little bit of TV. And, he was complimentary of Spencer Rattler's play through the first couple of weeks. This will be the most Saints season ever, Tommy, if they get through the season and then decide that Spencer Rattler's the quarterback of the future, and pass on a quarterback in the draft, because they're going to have obviously a top 10 pick, potentially top 5 if they win 4 games or less. But what I'm saying is it would be the most Saints thing ever if they go 3-14 or 4-13, and they Rattler plays just good enough to where they think, all right, he's the guy. We're going to go. We got a guy. It'll be his 3rd year next year. We're going to stick with him. We don't need a quarterback. We got a backup quarterback who's a 2nd-round pick in Shuck. And then all of a sudden they pass on a quarterback or two that they could have had, and then they go on to be a great player. And Spencer Rattler, but stays Spencer Rattler. That to me seems like that story could be coming the Saints' way. That would be the most Saints thing ever.
would it kind of be like the Baker Mayfield thing where it looks like he's disappeared and then all of a sudden he reemerges? If Rattler a couple years down the road, but I think the Saints have a lot of issues more than the quarterback situation. Is
Yeah,
my
definitely.
my my opinion is issues with the offensive line, is issues in the front office, is issues with the salary cap. The front, I mean, it's just a mess right now, and maybe they can go, on any given Sunday. I mean, an NFL team, I mean, it's 53 pro football players. And if the Seahawks have a bad day and the Saints have a really good day and get a lucky bounce or two, get a break, maybe they can win the game. But I don't know. The wise guys have the Seahawks a 7.5 point favorite. That's a hot line number because of the whole 7 point thing. 7.5, I don't know. But I'm going to watch the
I don't
game
have
Sunday.
it's different watching Saints this year for me. And I know I'm tainted because I bet the under 5.5 wins for the whole season. So a part of me is pulling for them to lose, but so it's a different mindset. But I don't have any expectation of the Saints winning a game. In the sense that from week to week, I have no. I'm just hoping they play well. I hope that it's entertaining. I'm hoping it's close. I hope it keeps me engaged. I hope I see something that's enjoyable. But as far as like going out there thinking we're gonna win, or the Saints are gonna win, or expecting them to win, or oh good, the Saints won and the Bucks lost, or whatever. None of that. This is a weird year. This harkens back to the days of Aaron Brooks and before Sean Payton ever came to town. Where you're hoping, oh, we got no chance to win that one. Hopefully we can win that one. Hopefully we play well. That's what it is.
That's a good point. You're going to hope they win somewhere, but you don't expect them to win. A lot of times you go in like you expect LSU to win against Southeastern. You're not going to expect the Saints to win at this point unless a lot of things change in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I will say through the first 2 weeks, and now they were at home. This is going to be traveling on the West Coast. This is where you get exposed. Back-to-back road games. You had the chance. You had some juice in the building. Albeit the juice in the building for the 49ers game was the 49er fans, which was pathetic. I mean, well over at least half the fans in the building were 49er fans. That is not an exaggeration, and I would, and potentially even more than that. But and understandable, right? If you're an opposing team, and the schedule comes out 6 months ago, and you see, oh, second game of the year, first road trip of the year, second game of the year, road trip, New Orleans. New Orleans is a destination city, just like Vegas is. And so folks are gonna take that Miami, you're gonna take that trip. And so the 49er fans did that, and they showed up in full force. It was impressive and incredible. But anyway, pulling for the Saints to pull off the miracle against the Seahawks, but I fully expect that not to happen as they're a 7.5 point dog. Major League Baseball, TK, we got another team in the playoffs besides the Milwaukee Brewers.
The Philadelphia Phillies with Aaron Nola, who's done better lately. And I really, their batting lineup is big time. And Schwarber's hit 50 bombs, and that boy can hit, always has been able to hit. So two teams officially in. There's about 5 or 6 teams that are officially eliminated. About 10 or 11 games left for each team in MLB. And one of the teams that's out, Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates. There'll be no playoffs there for Skeens, for the Pirates, who just never really got things going. I mean, Skeens' numbers are just phenomenal, and he doesn't get any run support. One stat I read that if he had got 3 runs support in every game he pitched, his career record would be like 39-2. Okay, but he doesn't have it. Okay, I mean, numbers are numbers,
Four
and
runs.
baseball's a game driven by numbers. Okay, we know
Right.
that, and that's a key part. But so Pirates are gonna have to try to figure it out, make some off-season moves, get going next year. But Major League Baseball, everybody's into the college football, NFL, high school. But when they hit the playoffs in about 10, 11, 12 days, there'll be a little more juice for MLB because you'll have the wild card teams, and there's a lot of good baseball teams out there, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, pulling for Aaron Nola with the Phillies, who's pitched well the last couple times out, to see, if he can kind of get another start or two, get ramped up going into the playoffs and make a difference for the Phillies. obviously pulling for him and Kevin Gosman. It'll be fun to see when their careers are over with. You stack the numbers against each other and all that to see who had the better career, but they're both having sensational careers at that. All right, TK, tell us about Tremonti's as we get out of here.
Well, today was the hamburger special day. Burger and fries for $6.99. Eat it here, take it to go. Everything you need for tailgating and parties watching the games. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood on Jefferson Highway, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Catering's available, small catering job, large, big parties to watch ball games. They can take care of you with the shrimp rolls, the ribeye rolls, the Chairman's Reserve meat, all your wine and liquor, bourbon, tremendous bourbon selection here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Hey, like and share this show. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, we appreciate that. Like and share this show. Next edition of Sports Shorts Daily will be Friday morning. We'll get you ready, set for the weekend. Hope everybody has a wonderful day.